5 awkward dating situations that you're likely to encounter. These are common. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Once again, I'm so happy to welcome back dating coach and relationship expert, Laurie Gerber. Laurie, thank you so much for being here again.
Great to be here.
Our conversation today, I found a blog, as you know, on your site, 5 awkward dating situations that you're likely to encounter. These are common. And I think it's one of the reasons too why a lot of people are hesitant to go back out there. They're afraid of embarrassment. There's all kinds of dating fears. So I thought that this might be a really good topic to address some of these likely awkward situations.
By the way, I write my blogs based on what people bring me, based on what happens in real life to my over 50 daters.
It totally got my attention. I think it's a great topic. And I want to ask you about one that wasn't on here, and then we'll go to your 5.
Right.
What's super awkward is when somebody shows up and they don't look like their profile pictures. How do you handle that?
It's actually very common. What I
Mhm.
have learned is that the majority of people lie on their profiles about their age, their height, their body type, or they use outdated or in other some other way enhanced photos. So that really is actually something that happens quite frequently, and which is why I require my clients to have a video chat before they meet in person. So that is where you can really see how close are they to their pictures. You still can't be sure, right? It's there still could be a surprise in person because you don't really know what the rest of my body looks like. I could be, who knows, right?
Mhm.
But it gives you a much better sense of age, amount of hair. But if you have skipped the video chat, then you still should have a half an hour date. And again, I only think the first date should be a drink, a coffee, a tea, a smoothie, right? It's only a 30-minute date anyway. You should have the date and see if you still could find yourself attracted to the person.
I think the takeaway for me, because this would be so awkward, and it would be difficult for me to say, well, you don't look anything like. And people do that. You can get there's some very rude. I mean, it's bad if you just
Yeah,
totally
I'm not
misrepresent
suggesting that. I'm
yourself. Yeah,
suggesting
no,
you have a half an hour date. Right? And
exactly.
you have a half an hour to be kind to another human that ostensibly you've had a fun banter with. So I don't recommend confrontation.
Yeah,
I don't recommend accusation. I recommend getting to know a human. And then after half an hour, if you're loving it, stay. If you're not loving it and it's not a match,
it's
it
not
was
a
a lovely to
match.
meet you. I don't think this is a romantic match. I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah. This is one that you hear over and over and over again. So maybe just expect it, just expect it and then
Certainly don't
figure
be
out.
surprised.
Yeah, don't be
Yeah.
surprised. Exactly. Exactly. Well, let's
Yeah.
go over these 5 situations. The first one here, he asks you to pay or split the bill. And I say he because the other ones really pertain to both, but this is probably more for, an awkward situation for a woman.
That's really tricky because again, my hope is that you've bantered, you've had a video chat, you're getting to know each other. If money is sort of a trigger issue for you or something you're grappling with or you're scared about,
Mhm.
generally this isn't a problem, right? Generally, we're waiting for the man to ask the woman out. Generally, the man is paying for the first date. After that, then it gets interesting. But generally, that's not an issue. But if he says, will you pay? Or do you want to split it? Or do you mind if we split it? Or anything like that, then you just have to ask yourself, what are your values?
Mhm.
Because you really might not mind. You might not mind paying. You might not mind splitting it. You may be of that philosophy. The only thing I think is off is if someone asks you out and then asks you to pay, that's a red flag. That's weird. That's not a values or philosophy thing. That's awkward. That's truly awkward.
Yeah.
And in those cases, again, rare, you can say, that's weird. I was expecting you to pay since you asked me. And then listen to what he says. Right? Like
Yeah.
I'd be dying of curiosity to know what he says after that. Well, I left my wallet at home.
Yeah, especially at our age, this is one that I just shake my head over. And maybe because we were just raised, yeah, and the man pays for the dates, and I don't say that because I can afford to pay for it, but I make up for it in different ways. For me, there's just something about when you're in a restaurant and then the man pays. It's old fashioned, I get it, but if I was asked to pay or split the bill, that would be an immediate okay, sure, sure. I don't mind. I'll do it. There's no second date. Yeah, for men.
99.9% of women expect you to ask for the date, plan the date, and pay for the date. It is still very much a cultural norm.
Here's another good one. They won't stop talking. They just talk
Oh,
and talk and talk and talk. This happens all the time too.
yeah.
How do you handle a talker?
Well, first of all, I like to keep drinking to a minimum, especially at the beginning.
Mhm.
For most people, drinking makes them more. I actually met my husband when he was drinking, and I didn't realize he was drinking, and I thought he was a talkative guy. Boy, was I wrong. Okay, so coffee, tea, smoothie for the first date in daylight, not at night, will get you more. A sober personality is more the person's actual personality. So that's number
Mhm.
one. You might have a narcissist who really is totally self-absorbed,
Mhm.
right? Like that's a possibility. And then the third possibility, which is probably the most frequent, is that the person's nervous
Nervous.
and they talk because they're nervous. Men really do think if they tell you lots of stories and they tell you all their credentials and they tell you how big the fish was, like they do think they're impressing you, right? So you really do have to go, can I tell you a story? Or, would you be interested in hearing my about my upbringing? Or, you really do have to help them remember the balance because they are trying to impress you. So for men, if you're listening, try to make it 50-50. For women, if you're listening and the man's talking too much, first of all, listen intently. Make sure they think you're actually listening, because if they don't think you're listening, they'll really go on. Say back some things you heard and
Yeah.
then segue that into, hey, I want to make sure I tell you about blah blah. Or you can even start a date like, hey, let's take turns. I get to ask a question, you answer, then I'll answer, then you get to ask a question, and then that'll be fun, right? That could
Funny.
also make them relax.
Well, and the big thing to remember here is, and we've actually done videos on it, is the most interesting people are the ones who don't talk at all. Well, not talk at all, but the more you listen, the more interesting you become to somebody else, and that's just a fact. If you just remember that, if you do get nervous,
Although you don't want to be too silent either. It's so funny. My husband's actual personality is very, very quiet. But I notice then that when he does speak, everyone's like, what's he gonna say? You're like, shh.
yeah, yeah,
You're right.
yes. Okay, number three here, another situation that they reveal a health or money issue right
Oof.
up
Right.
front.
And this is everyone's biggest fear, right? Everyone's the biggest fear dating over 50 is like, is this person gonna rob my purse or make me a nurse? Like, rob my purse or make me a nurse.
Yeah,
So
are they gold diggers? Yeah, they could take my
either
retire.
way,
Yeah,
right? Like
uh-huh.
literally all genders have this concern is how is this
Right.
person going to impact my wallet and my time, right? My time and my energy. Everyone wants someone healthy and wealthy, and yet many of us are not healthy and wealthy, and we're not
Right.
getting any healthier and wealthier over time.
Right.
So it's a tricky thing. And the context you can hear me suggesting is, most of us are not wealthy, and all of us are going to have health issues if we're lucky before we die, right? Like if we're going to live old enough, we're going to have some health issues. So there's nobody who's perfect. And there are certain financial situations and health situations that will be okay with you, acceptable to you, even fine. Like, I mean, the reason my husband has arthritis and concussions is because he's a jock. Well, that's also what makes him sexy and strong. So,
Yeah.
you can't have everything, right? So there are some health conditions that are going to be acceptable all the way to attractive to you. So you can't
Mhm.
be you don't want to avoid dating because you're afraid of it. And I've heard a lot of people do that. I'm
Mhm.
afraid if I date someone over 60 or whatever, I'm going to have to be their nurse or their person. I'm going to have to take care of them financially, or I'm going to have to take care of them,
Yeah.
or I already took care of someone who died or
Yeah.
who left. We're scarred. We're really
Lots.
scarred. So again,
Right.
there's a lot of obstacles to believing in love and going for it, some of them quite deep. But in that moment where one is revealed, again, this is good. You want it revealed in the first few dates. And the next thing you should do is, how does that affect your life?
Mhm.
How has that affected your relationships? How
Mhm.
has that been for your partners? Just start to ask a question and care and be a good friend. Because the worst
Yeah.
that can happen is you are a nice person they met. The best that can happen is it was the love of their life. But there is no reason to react, get angry, be judgmental, be rude. If someone's being vulnerable enough to tell you their financial or their health issue,
Mhm.
be kind.
Yeah.
Listen, be kind, be generous, ask questions. And then if at the end you're like, I can't personally handle that thing,
Right.
that's not in alignment with my dreams, then you need to have your canned response. Remember, I give all my clients the canned responses. It's been lovely to meet you. I think there's a mismatch here because I promised myself I would not date a recovered alcoholic again. I promised myself I would never, date someone who couldn't match my financial desires for travel. I promised myself I would not become a caretaker early in a relationship because I just got done caretaking my disabled kid. But it's from the heart, it's kind, and and you have to be honest with yourself. But wait till the end of the date. You never know. There are people
Mhm.
who fall in love with people who are dying. There are people who fall in love
Yeah,
with people who are poor. It
yeah.
happens every day. It's
Well,
not a deal breaker unless it's a deal breaker.
as you said, at our age group, that's going to happen more and more. People wonder about it, and some will reveal it. Or, as in point
Or,
four here, uh, what if you're asked? Maybe it's not revealed, but
right.
somebody says, "So, what? How many medic or how much medication do you
What's in
or
your
something?"
medicine cabinet? I'm
I
honestly, if you're working with me, I say you bring it up in on the second or third date because it's more like what are your health issues, not do you have
do
any,
you
right?
right?
I remember I'll never get over my client who was like, "My sexual health is impeccable. How's yours?" And he said, "Very good," which meant I only have herpes. Right? Like it's just like you have to actually ask the exact question you want to know. Right? Like if you and even then people may lie to you, but at least you asked. So I actually think you should ask before you're asked. And then based on however vulnerable they are with you, then you decide how vulnerable you want to be with them at that stage in the relationship. If you're asked and you haven't gotten to ask for it first, I say you tell the truth because it's going to make sure it breaks you up sooner if the person is not a match. You want somebody who can accept your issue, is charmed by your issue, or can tolerate your issue or work with your issue. If
Mhm,
it breaks you up, that was not your person.
mhm.
And you need to, again, prepare. This is one of the things I do with all my clients prepare your spiel, prepare how you're going to say it. The first time I ever had sex in 1971, I didn't know about herpes and I didn't use a condom. And thank God I didn't get pregnant, but I did get herpes. I've been treated for
Mhm.
it and whatever it is. Okay. Or, I was treated for cervical cancer 5 years ago. I've been clean. I go for yearly checks, but there's no reason my doctors feel absolutely confident that I'm great. But because of it, I eat a very low sugar diet and I avoid
Mhm.
alcohol. It could be not a financial or health thing, but whatever that is, you have to be ready to talk about it in a succinct, self-assured, confident way. And it
Yeah.
really works. I've seen this work for my clients over and over again.
Well, and like you said earlier, it's not about, do you have issues? What are they? What I
Right.
struggle with, and you're absolutely right in all of your recommendations. I still struggle with, it's too early, it's none of your business. I mean, it is if you're going to go forward. I
Yeah.
struggle with this one on a first date. Maybe,
It
that
doesn't
for
have to
me.
be the first date. For me, it needs
Okay.
to be before you have sex and by the fourth date.
Okay.
Because the problem with not doing it is once you get to the fourth date and beyond, you start to get attached. And if you're attracted to the
Mhm.
person and there's enough good on paper, you then start to build real. And then if you have sex, especially, you're now really starting to build a bond and fall for someone and you want to keep them. But maybe their health issue or your health issue is a deal breaker. And I don't think that's fair to have somebody agree to something not knowing what's inside.
Yeah, you have to really decide, can I live with? Yes, it's a tough one, and it's
And if you
something.
don't trust them enough to say it, they might not be your person.
Sometimes you can deal with more once you do get to know somebody better, but is that a good idea? Number five here, then finally, he pushes for sex too soon. And I say again, he, because this is usually the man doing it, not the woman, that they probably wouldn't complain. I don't know, maybe they would.
I don't know.
How do
You
you
never
handle
know,
that?
but you never know. But I will, it is obviously a gendered thing. And,
Mhm.
to the men listening, I would say, make them beg. It's much fun. Wait. And you tell them you're withholding sex. That makes a woman very horny. That really is the case again where you don't want to shame someone, you don't want to be judgmental, rude. You might fall in love with this guy. You
Mhm.
really might. As long as he responds well to your, could we slow this down?
Mhm.
And that's the right response, oh, I'm very flattered. I'm glad you're attracted to me. I'm attracted to you too. I really like to take things slower. I'm not that kind of girl. Like I would want to be monogamous before, engaging in sexual activity. And I certainly don't think we're ready to have that conversation yet. So, let's stick to public places. I'm happy to make out in the alley with you, but that's about as far as it's going to go right now, or your version of that, right? That's just an example, but it's a very nice, very sweet, especially if you're not attracted, then it's like, no, no, thank you. And it's been lovely to meet you. You seem like a wonderful person. I don't think this is a romantic
Yeah.
match. I wish you the best of luck. But if you are attracted and you do like the person, you just need to slow it down, then really being upfront about what your requirements are to move in that direction is really a healthy thing. And then how he responds could turn you on more.
Another big conversation that would go under this, we won't go into in detail here, but the sex on the first date is that everybody has an opinion about that. And yeah, we're old enough to, we can do whatever we want, but what are the what's the consequences of that? It's something you're likely to run into. So
Yeah.
be prepared in how you want to handle it.
And it doesn't mean sex does not mean the same thing to any two people, and it certainly tends to mean something different for women and for men. So we should all
Mhm.
be aware of that when we're proposing it or declining it. There are risks and rewards to that choice. And if you're looking for your long-term companion, I'd certainly suggest you do not
Mhm.
have sex on the first date because it will cloud your judgment.
Yeah, be prepared for how to handle it. Well, those are the five that you have in your blog. Is there anything you want to add before we shut this down?
I want to give a context, which is that the awkward conversations are not to be avoided, they're actually necessary. And you want to lean into them. You want to reward them if they come up, because that's what's going to have you realize if you're really compatible with somebody. All the pleasantries and all the fun conversations and all the oh my God, me too, and I love Aspen too, and blah blah blah. Like all of that is great for building the chemistry and the rapport, but what will really determine if you're compatible, what I call
Mhm,
liability compatible, not just asset compatible, is
mhm,
when those awkward things come up and you weather that. You both show that you can tell the truth, be vulnerable, be connected, and also just whether or not your answers are compatible. That's
mhm,
where the actual strength building of the relationship happens. So we don't
mhm.
actually want to avoid it.
Good advice. Well, if you have any moments to share that we didn't cover here, I really think these are some of the big ones, but I would love to hear our viewer
Yeah,
what
me
kind of
too. Let's get
experience
those
and
comments.
awkward
Yep.
moments. Exactly. Get those comments coming. Lori, thank you. I always just love talking with you. It's always a fun time.
Yeah.
If you want to have more fun with Lori or just get her advice, all of her contact information is below. She's a great coach. You have great information just on your site. So your
Yeah.
website stuff is there too. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our next conversation on Second Act TV.